Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dragon Ball Nation. Now today I have an interesting discussion on Dragon Ball Multiverse of all things, and it's going to be a discussion on does Gast Carcolh or Gast Carcolh, there's a lot of different ways people say it, does his power make sense? And I brought Qaamans along on this video. Would you like to say hello to the people?
Alrighty guys, it is Qaamans here today.
Yes, and as I said, we're doing a Dragon Ball Multiverse discussion, and a lot of people might not know what that is. So, Qaamans, would you like to give a brief backstory on this? I know you did a video on it, but would you like to give a brief backstory? And people that want to get in more information can check the video down below to your video where you explained it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could check out, my video to get a more in-depth explanation, but essentially Dragon Ball Multiverse is this really cool fan-made Dragon Ball series. It's actually good, guys, and basically in it, like, they have all of these fighters from all these different universes that basically go to this big tournament, and they're all essentially fighting each other. And in this tournament, there are a variety of characters, and Gast Carcolh is actually a character from the Dragon Ball Multiverse universe, in which it's a scenario where, let's say the Namekians all decided to fuse together. How would they have fared up against Frieza and his henchmen? And eventually, Gast Carcolh is actually strong enough to defeat Cell, and it's also implied that he defeated Majin Buu too. But the main discussion that we're having today with me and Josh is that we're discussing whether or not we felt a person in the Namek saga who fuses with all of the Nameks would have been strong enough to take on characters that are astronomically more powerful later on in the series. And what does this say about Namekian fusion? Even though this isn't canon, this is a fan thing. So that's essentially a little bit of a backstory for you,
Definitely, absolutely, yeah, guys, absolutely. This is a fan-made thing, not official from Toei or Toriyama or anything like that. Completely fan-made. But yeah, basically, well, his name is Gast Carcolh. We're just gonna call him Gast Carcolh. That's way easier to say.
Or we can just call him Gas, because that's
Gast.
His first name.
I'm probably still gonna call him Gast Carcolh. But basically, he fused with these Namekians to defeat Frieza. That is stated in the manga for this series, and that's something that I've always found a little interesting, because Namekian fusion is something we don't really know how strong that is. It was a fusion between Nail and the other Namekians after Frieza had already started killing villages. That's what is stated in the manga. This is already after Frieza already starts killing people, so there's already a lower number of Namekians to fuse with, not to mention there's not that many warrior type Namekians, and people that aren't too familiar with the different types of Namekians, you can check out Black and Fist video on the birds and the bees on Namekians to get a better story on that. But there's a difference between...
Yo, I was just gonna say it for you, Josh. There's two types, essentially, for those who don't know, really quick. There's the Dragon Clan, who focuses on making the Dragon Balls, and then you actually have, like, the Warrior Clan. Sorry to cut you off.
No, not a problem. And Nail, Qaamans, as I'm sure you will agree, Nail was basically a god in terms of power to most of those warrior type Namekians, right?
Right, essentially, you gotta think that Nail's power level at a 42,000, and it was just estimated, from the quick scouter glimpses, that the actual henchmen themselves had a power level of around, 3,000, so you gotta think that Nail is 14 times stronger than all of those other Namekians, and Josh and I are gonna do another video talking about the difference that just being twice as strong as somebody makes.
Right, yeah, so there's already, even before Frieza started killing Namekians, there weren't that many Namekians on Namek either, and even after, it's not stated in Multiverse how many Namekians he fused with, but we do know for sure he fused with them after Frieza had already started killing these Namekians, so it's already a lower number. And guys, a big thing about this is Gas does not have Piccolo fused within him. That it makes an enormous difference in his power, and essentially Gas had gotten strong enough to beat Frieza and as well as Cooler initially, and then I assume he may have trained. I don't actually think it's stated if he trained, but decades later he was strong enough to beat Cell and even Majin Buu, and I do not see something like a character like that being quite that strong based on how strong those warrior Namekians were, even though there weren't that many left, as well as those, the Dragon Clan, the healer types. I don't think they would give that big of a boost, because Qaamans, there's a big difference between fusing with another Namekian and, for example, the boost that Piccolo got from fusing with Kame. And I just cannot see this type of fusion, even if we give them the benefit of the doubt that they would be stronger than Frieza, I cannot in any sense see them getting strong enough to beat Buu, even after training for, 2 decades. I mean, Piccolo wasn't even close to Buu. Not to take a knock at Piccolo, he was never close to Buu, though.
And I'm not like, trying to point this out too, but I actually did a video on how strong I thought Piccolo was, and Josh, we both agreed that at max, absolute maximum, during the GT time, I'm not saying GT's canon, but during the period of time that would have been the GT saga, the most Piccolo could ever have been in his life was probably maybe close to Fat Buu, and I don't even think he was that strong. I think maybe Super Perfect Cell by the time of GT, considering the fact that that's 27 years after the events of the Cell games, if you go by, whichever dub you want to use for GT. So I think that when you really factor all of this in, the point we're trying to say here, guys, is that obviously it's fan made and we're not taking a nod at the series. It's pretty cool, but I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that all of those Namekians could have become as strong as Majin Buu and Cell. Maybe if you say Frieza to just wink it off, but if you just want to go all the way to say Cell and Frieza and Majin Buu, who are so much stronger, it's kind of hard to believe. And I say that especially because you got to factor in that, even though Piccolo got a significant boost when he fused with Nail, and for my video, what I was discussing about what if Piccolo killed Frieza in the second form, Josh might link that to 3 videos here. Anyways, in that video where Piccolo was fighting against Frieza, the interesting thing is that we've estimated that Piccolo at most would have been at least 100,000 in power, and even that's kind of far to say considering the fact that would have put him ahead of Goku, who got both the Zenkai boost and trained on his way to get to the planet Namek. So, I mean, we've always estimated that Piccolo was probably around a little bit stronger than Burter and Jace before fusing with Nail, especially because of the fact that Nail said you don't stand a chance against Frieza the way you are, and we need to fuse, and Nail said that against a suppressed Frieza in his first form, which shows that Piccolo is not even close. So Piccolo must have multiplied 10 to 20 times in terms of power, and this is Piccolo and Nail we're talking about here, and they multiply that much. But when you take all of those little Nameks and mix them together, it's just very hard to believe, unless we don't understand the true properties of Namekian fusion, or if it's just, they didn't really factor it into the story.
Definitely. And just to clarify, remember guys, Nail is basically, he is leagues and leagues and leagues ahead of those other Namekians. And remember, Piccolo is not a part of Gast's character. He is not involved in that fusion. And, basically the big meat of the fusion is Nail. And I just don't see those smaller Namekian cast, I suppose, really making that big of an impact. And I for one, don't actually think that they would be strong enough to beat Frieza realistically, but I think it's definitely safe to say Majin Buu would kind of be out of the question. And it's kind of implied that this character may even be stronger than the Multiverse Vegito, which is supposed to be a very incredibly strong character.
Can we just, to close this out, Josh, I just wanted to ask you, do you want to put like some touches, because I can already see comments that might say, hey Qaamans, hey Josh, what do you guys think about about Kami and Piccolo? Because if you look at Kami and Piccolo, for example, they're going to say, well, Kami only had a power level in the hundreds, assumingly, and he fused with Piccolo, and Piccolo became leagues stronger than what he was before. So what do you have to say about that situation with Piccolo and Kami?
Well, with the situation with Piccolo and Kami, the reason that was such a potent quote-unquote fusion is because they were becoming the being they once were years and years ago. They're becoming one again. They were already apart and they had split off. They were once one being, and their power had it's kind of vague the way they explain why it's so much stronger, but the reason is because they were once a specific being. That's why Nail and Piccolo were not ever one and the same. They were completely different. Piccolo is just regaining his prior strength, so to speak, but we do not know exactly how strong, well, what they call is the nameless Namekian is what Kami and Piccolo were. We don't exactly know how strong it was, but it was implied to be one of pretty much the strongest thing around.
Right, I agree with you 100%, and I was just going to point out that, I mean, when you factor in that it's actually the name of their father was Katas, who gave birth to them, and they split off and did all that stuff. And, when you factor in that even though Kami is leagues weaker than Piccolo, would you say that their power was gained because of their innate fusion, or do you think power had some factor to do with it? In the sense that saying, let's say Kami had a power level of, like, let's say a character who was, you know, I don't know, around Frieza's level. Let's say Kami had a power level of around Frieza's level, and Piccolo had the same power he had when he fused with Kami. Do you theoretically think that they would have still been just as strong because they would have been as strong as the original being? Or they would have gained an even bigger boost? I personally think he would have been even stronger if Kami was stronger.
I think if Kami was stronger, that he would have been stronger. But the thing is, I do not think that the strength Piccolo had when he fused with Kami, I cannot see that being the original strength of the nameless Namekian. That is a huge, huge, huge power. It must be a proportional, like a set proportion that Kami gives him back. You know what I mean? It was a certain percentage that was taken away, I suppose, if that makes sense.
So, but I'm guessing you do agree about Kami giving him more if he was stronger, though.
If Kami were to, so to speak, quote-unquote, theoretically had trained, I don't think he would have given him more. I think that, I'm just going to throw a random number out here. Let's just say that it split their power off. It reduced their power by like 80% or something. I'm not giving any specifics, but they would gain 80% more of that power back, so to speak. You know what I mean? The percentage doesn't change. That's the way I looked at it. It's very confusing, though. And I think that can honestly be a separate video in itself, because that's just going off the top of the head, guys. So don't kill me in the comments. That's just going off the top of my head. Not something I've really thought too deeply about. But is there anything else you'd like to add, Qaaman? I know we've said a lot here.
No, I think this is a pretty fun discussion.
Alright, and I'd like to, leave it to you guys in the comments if you guys want to, join in the discussion. I think it was a pretty cool one, considering it's Multiverse and it's fan-made. I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about. And like we said, not to take a shot at Multiverse. Multiverse is freaking awesome. Even though there's some inconsistencies, it's a fan-made thing. It looks awesome. The drawings are awesome. Go check it out. I'll leave it in the link down below. You guys should all check it out if you haven't. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Qaaman, as always, take us out of here.
So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, that Piccolo trashes Gast.